The sound of yesterday. Ethan had never liked the attic. It smelled like dust and endings, the kind of air that carried too many memories, the kind that whispered when the house went quiet. But on that gray Sunday morning, with the rain tapping softly against the windows, he climbed the narrow stairs anyway. The house had been his father's. Now it was just a place filled with boxes, tools, and time that had stopped moving. Ethan told himself he was only cleaning, sorting things out before selling the place. But deep down, he knew he wasn't ready to let it go. Maybe he was looking for something. He just didn't know what. The light bulb flickered weakly, showing shapes of old furniture covered in yellowed sheets. Stacks of vinyl records leaned against a wall. A guitar case sat in the corner, the same one his father used when he played late at night, back when Ethan was still a boy pretending to be asleep. He brushed off the dust, but didn't open it. Not yet. Then, behind a pile of old magazines, he saw it. A small black cassette recorder. It was scuffed, one of those heavy, mechanical ones with real buttons you had to press hard. A tiny label was taped to its side. For Ethan. He froze. The handwriting was unmistakable, his father's. Ethan sat down on the wooden floor, heart quietly pounding. He hadn't seen this before. He hadn't expected to. He turned it in his hands, feeling the cool metal, the weight of something more than plastic and tape. Inside, a cassette was already loaded. Its title was written in faded ink. The Sound of Yesterday. He hesitated. He hadn't heard his father's voice in years. Not since the funeral. Not since he stopped visiting the grave. He told himself he'd moved on, but sitting there in the silence of the attic, he realized he hadn't. With a small breath, he pressed play. At first, just static. A soft hiss like wind through leaves. Then, a faint hum. A voice, low and distant, emerged from the noise. "Ethan, if you're hearing this." He froze again. His father's voice, tired, gentle, but real, filled the attic. "Then maybe you're ready." Static again. A pause that felt too long. "I kept something for you. Not just my music, but the sounds of what we were. Of what we lost." Ethan felt the world tighten around him. He didn't understand, but something inside him did. A memory stirred, a fragment of laughter, a summer long gone. "You'll hear things," the voice continued. "Not all of them pleasant, but don't be afraid. The past doesn't hurt you, Ethan, unless you run from it." Then silence. The tape kept spinning, but there was no sound. And yet, somewhere in that silence, Ethan thought he heard something else. Faint, like the echo of a song he used to play. He leaned closer. A woman's voice. Soft, laughing. And for a second, Ethan forgot to breathe. He knew that laugh. It was her. He replayed the moment 3 times. Each time, the laugh came from nowhere. Too real, too close. Then static swallowed it again, leaving him in that gray attic surrounded by ghosts. Her name was Laura. Once, she had filled every corner of his life with music. They had met at a small gig. She sang, he played guitar. Their lives had been noise and motion and warmth, until it wasn't. He hadn't thought about her in months, or at least that's what he told himself. Now, that single echo had broken something open. He took the recorder downstairs, into the dim living room, and set on the coffee table. The rain outside had grown heavier, a constant background rhythm, like applause for memories he didn't ask for. He pressed play again. More static, a scrape, then footsteps. His own, maybe? No, slower, deliberate. He turned toward the empty hallway, half expecting to see someone standing there. Nothing. Then, faintly, the sound of a piano. A few notes, unsure, like a rehearsal. It wasn't possible. He went to the corner of the room, where his father's old, upright piano stood under a dust cover. He hadn't touched it in years, but as he lifted the cover, he swore he saw one of the keys move. The sound from the recorder matched it, the same note, the same hesitation. It wasn't a recording anymore. It was playing. He stepped back. "Dad!" The piano stopped. The tape clicked. Ethan turned it off, breathing unevenly. He didn't know if it was his imagination, exhaustion, or something else, something older than reason. But the feeling stayed, the sense that the past had found a way to speak again. That night, he couldn't sleep. He lay awake, listening to the rain, wondering if the tape was still spinning in the dark. And somewhere, under the hum of the storm, he thought he heard the faintest whisper, "Play me again." Morning came pale and silent. The storm had passed, but the house seemed changed. Or maybe it was him. Ethan made coffee, black and bitter, and stared at the recorder like it was a living thing. He should throw it out. He knew that. But the ache of curiosity was stronger than fear. He pressed play. Static again, but softer this time, almost rhythmic. Then, the sound of a door opening. A voice, his own, laughing. Laura's voice answered, teasing him. It wasn't a memory. It was a moment. He could hear it all. The way she poured coffee, the way she hummed between words. It wasn't just sound, it was presence. He sat perfectly still, eyes closed, letting it wash over him. He could almost see it. The kitchen, the sunlight, her face turned toward him. Then, suddenly, the moment changed. Her tone grew sharper. He remembered that day now. It was the last time they spoke before she left. Her words cut through the tape like glass. "I can't stay here, Ethan. You're somewhere else even when you're with me. You're always listening to ghosts." The sound cracked. A chair scraped. A door slammed. He remembered chasing after her, but not what he said. He couldn't remember if he said anything at all. And then, just before the tape clicked off, a single word, faint and trembling, from his father's voice again. "Listen." That one word, "listen," followed Ethan for days. It echoed through the silence of the house, through the sound of every cup he set down, every creak in the old floorboards. He caught himself pausing mid-breath, waiting for something to answer it. Nothing did. But the house felt alive now, not haunted, not exactly, just aware, like it was listening too. He began to explore again. Every object became a question. The framed photographs, the worn chair by the window, even the cracked tiles in the hallway. He wanted to understand what his father had meant. He wanted to know why that tape existed. Late one evening, he found another box labeled simply, "Studio." Inside, tangled wires, sheet music, and a stack of blank cassettes. All empty except one. This one wasn't labeled. He took it to the recorder, hesitated, then pressed play. This time, the static didn't hiss, it breathed. Slow, deliberate, like someone inhaling before speaking. Then, a voice, softer, younger. "Hey, Dad, I think I finally figured out the song." Ethan's throat tightened. It was his own voice. He remembered recording demos in this house when he was 17, before he quit music, before the silence settled in. But what came next didn't belong to him. It was a conversation between him and his father years ago, one he didn't remember. "You can't keep chasing echoes," his father's voice said on the tape. "I'm not chasing anything," his younger self had replied. "I'm trying to hold on." His father laughed quietly. "That's what I'm afraid of." The recorder clicked off, but the moment stayed, heavy, unfinished. Ethan sat there for a long time, feeling the edges of memory scrape against the present. He didn't know if his father had meant to leave the tapes as lessons, warnings, or just pieces of himself. But he knew now, this wasn't about ghosts. It was about unfinished conversations, sounds left behind when people stopped speaking to each other. He replayed the cassette, and as it ended, a new sound faded in. A melody, soft, trembling, uncertain, but familiar. It was his melody, the one he never completed. His father must have finished it. And then, under the fading notes, came one more voice, Laura's. "Do you hear it now?" she whispered, barely audible beneath the music. He stopped breathing. It was impossible. It couldn't be. But she said it again, the same phrase, clearer this time. "Do you hear it now?" The sound cut out. Ethan sat frozen, heart racing. Every sense screamed this can't be real, but something deeper, something older, told him it was. He had spent years turning away from everything that hurt, every memory that demanded to be heard. Now they were calling him back. He stood, staring at the silent recorder. Rain began again outside, steady and soft, tapping on the windows like fingers asking to come in. For the first time in years, Ethan didn't turn away. He picked up the guitar. The strings were old and uneven, but the sound that came from them was real, raw, trembling, alive. Ethan played slowly, each note uncertain but honest. He followed the faint memory of the melody his father had left, filling in the spaces between. It wasn't perfect. It didn't need to be. The music filled the house like breath. The rain softened, and in that fragile quiet, he could almost feel them. His father, Laura, not as ghosts, but as sounds that lived between moments. He pressed record. His fingers moved with something that felt like surrender. When he finished, he didn't listen back. He just sat there, eyes closed, the silence after the final chord ringing louder than any note. Morning came pale and still. Ethan left the tape on the piano. He didn't label it. He didn't need to. As he walked out of the house, sunlight touched the window where his father used to sit and hum. The house, for the first time, felt lighter, not because it was empty, but because it had been heard. On the table inside, the recorder blinked once, faintly, as if saying goodbye. Then silence. But if you listened closely, if you truly listened, you might still hear it. The sound of yesterday.